Hello, and welcome to today's presentation on assisting international students and career development professionals working with international students. We'll be sharing with you a bit about our history of our committee, where we are now, and how we've grown in the past few years and contributed to the research and resource development areas for career development professionals working with international students. Thank you all for joining us today. So current co-chair is Onion Park at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and myself, Aram Boj, over at Stanford University, as well as our other presenters, Elif Balin over at San Francisco State University, and Vanessa Lee over at University of California, Riverside. I'll pass it along to Vanessa.
Good morning, everyone. It's a little bit chilly here in California. I mean, compared to all of you, it's probably not cold, but this is the Southern California cold. We just don't have that thick blood to deal with it. So if you see me kind of doing this. So welcome. I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit and give you an overview of our committee. So some of us have been involved with the committee for many years, and I think started with Elif. She really has spearheaded this effort. So just a little bit of history and kind of what we do here. So our team, I don't want to read off the PowerPoint, but our team really was originally created as a task force to help all the professionals in the career service field working with international students, get them together and brainstorm what would be the best way of sharing resources and sharing best practices so then we can better support this group. Because this group traditionally, and just like some other marginalized group, there are a lot of myths that comes with it. You know, a lot of times thinking about international students being rich, they don't really need help, which really is a lot of this kind of misconception. You know, kind of give you an example. Recently, because of a lot of budget shortfall, I joined a meeting on campus. The first thing somebody mentioned was let's recruit more international students because they have money, right? And it's supposed to be a very diversely minded community. So it really was, to me, I was pretty disheartening to hear that comment about international students after so many years. So really our committee is really aimed to continue providing different type of resources and training and ways to do programming to help this group that really they pay the most money to come to study, and they supplement a lot of universities' income, and really trying to see what we can do to support them. So we started, I think, 2012 as a task force for a year, and then transitioned to work group. And then we officially began as a committee in 2015. So started really involved in it and building this committee. Aram, can you do next slide? Or whoever has the, okay, thank you. So started with a committee, we had a small group, but the membership structure was what they call regular member versus active member. So a lot of times when we had committee meetings, then only a few people would participate, and there was not a lot of activity happening or a lot of projects happening. At the beginning was a research group as well as a resource group. And a big project that both collaborated was to create a resource guide for international student employers and also for practitioners. And I stepped in as a co-chair with Nicole Anderson from Tufts University. I want to say 2016. I think 2016. And then we decided that we want to make this group a lot more active because there's so much work to be done. Therefore, we decided that everybody wants to join our team had to participate. So not just, they can choose not to only come to meeting or just being on listserv. So we want everybody to participate. and then we divide them into different teams, and then everybody had to come up with project, and then different teams will be also presenting different proposal to the to NCDA annual conference. So that really had energized a lot of the members, because even though this is a volunteer opportunity, they're all very passionate in providing the support for international students. So we basically gave them a lot of things to do, and then they all took on it as a really, really great committee. So as you can see, we gradually increased the membership size, and now we actually have a few different teams now. We have a social media team, as well as a few other side projects, webinar, and continue doing research to support international students. And we want to be that driving force, want to be visible within the NCDA community to kind of help spread different awareness of what are the challenges, especially the last 4 years been very challenging. My committee will talk more about it. So that's kind of like an overview of our committee. So I'm going to pass it on to Umyan.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, so as a current chair of this committee, I'm so glad and very honored to share our stories. Not only what we did for international student service, but also how we try to develop our idea or plan for organizational development for this voluntary committee, right? Because everybody is spending your time as a volunteer, but how we can make your volunteering time more meaningful, the serving for whole the broader community of NCDA. So first thing our committee has done for the last 2 or 3 years is restructuring. So restructuring is a concept from the business or organizational development area. I studied human resource development for my master's degree. So restructuring is very important, right? So first thing, our committee started with two subcommittees, resources and research teams. But as the members are growing, also we have more than 30 people now. So we want to have more teams because we want to spread our leadership experience, or we want to empower the leaderships to other people, not only just some of people of this committee. That's why we added some task-driven teams in addition to 2 existing teams. As the Vanessa already mentioned, we created a team for webinars. The webinar team has been existing for 3 years. This year we don't have a webinar team, but so also we created the LinkedIn group teams. Now we have more than 500 members of that LinkedIn group. But this year, in this fiscal year, our new leaders, including the Aram and Vanessa, Alif, we discussed, okay, we may want to use different platform, to reach out to people or telling our stories to all community. So that we thought about, we need YouTube channel. So that's how we rebranded the LinkedIn group to social media team. Now, social media team is one of the popular team for new members this year. Also, later I think Alif may be covering this part because our committee hosted our own small-size mini conference last year that was very successful. So this year we want to do this mini conference again. So we want to create a task force team for this mini conference within our committee. As you see, our committee is a working committee. No one is the free riders. Everyone should contribute to the projects of the committee, right? So that's why the leadership structure is now including 2 co-chairs, me and Aram, and 8 people who are leading all these task-driven teams. So the 10 people are leading the committee now. So as this kind of the number of leaders are getting bigger, so that the more important is how we can communicate between co-chairs and team leads, how we can communicate between teams. That's why the Aram and made a regular cycle of communication between chairs and co-lead. We already started a strategy chat with new co-leads when we started this fiscal year. Also, January, February, we'll do mid-year chat within our leaders. Then absolutely after annual conference ends, then we'll do debrief chat, debriefing all the years as well as plan the next year. So this is a restructuring part, but I'm also talking about how we can increase our visibility in NCDA community.
Yeah, so as Anyang has kind of alluded to, right, all of our work is really collaborative in nature, and that's because that's a part of our core values. We found that this skill set is one of the most successful ways that we can support the international community that we work with across our campuses, and also this mindset has kind of bled into the work that we do with one another as a committee. It's really helped us start to lead in more meaningful ways and also think about how can we continue to collaborate with NCDA headquarters. So through this, we're starting to find ways to provide more transparency and visibility on the work that we've been doing as we continue to progress towards this goal of remaining and continue to grow our collaborative nature. And one of the ways that we've begun to do that is by inviting our board liaison, Carolyn, to our bi-monthly general meetings. We found that this is helpful in starting to bridge that gap between the NCDA board and the larger NCDA headquarters and the work of our committee to start to showcase a lot more transparency about our work, as well as starting to build a stronger and more supportive relationship with the larger NCDA. Most recently, we were able to submit and actually post our international student support statement on the NCDA website to showcase our support for the international community. We think this is really important, that advocacy piece, because it's something that's missing in a lot of spaces. And even though we went through about 5 months of iterations of this statement, we wanted to make sure that we were writing in a way that was reflecting our vision and values, both on the larger NCDA side as well as our committee. But we also realize that our work isn't done here with just writing that statement, right? So we'll continue to showcase that solidarity with the community that we serve. We're also working on further showcasing our work through writing some future articles in regards to the need for supporting that international student community, especially during these really uncertain times. Outside of that, we've also worked a bit on, and we talked about this a bit with our social media team, but this started out as a LinkedIn subcommittee, and we've kind of transformed that into a social media subcommittee. And we're working on trying to create that YouTube channel, as Anyang previously mentioned. And this team's goal is really to help to provide more access to educational materials as we're wanting to bridge the gap, the knowledge gap that is missing out there. But also internally, we do have these 3 teams, we do have these general meetings, but having the social media team also does help bridge the gap between the work of our different committees, since everyone will be contributing to provide content for this. We've already created some video content which has come out of our previous mini conference, but we'll continue to build on that as we're adding more, because we want to make sure that we are in touch with our audience and that career educators and practitioners will be able to grow and kind of learn more through this channel as we continue to develop and post a wealth of resources for the community. We're also, we'll also be contributing some of these videos that are going to be in this channel to the NCDA Master YouTube channel with some really key videos that'll be helpful for everyone to learn more about working effectively with the international community. Another project that we're also working on digitizing our 40-page international student resources guide, which we post every 2 years. Into a more accessible format, especially given all the things that have happened since COVID. We found that this PDF format is great, but there's ways that we can reach more people who are doing this type of work and who are interested in becoming more competent in being able to support all of our audiences that are interested in this type of work. So we are exploring being able to post it in some type of website format. And as you can tell from all of our work, advocacy and accessibility is really at the core of our work, especially this year. It is important for us to share our knowledge of working with this community, as it is important for us to share with international students as well as the practitioners and educators who work with them. I will now pass it off to my colleague, Elif, who will talk to you a little bit more about professional development and the work of our research team.
Thank you so much, Aram. Hello, everyone. I first want to express my appreciation for the earlier conversation today on the diversity, equity, inclusion in career development. So I really believe that what we are presenting right now is a very tangible, a very meaningful example for action, like as Aram also said, advocacy action, what it could look like in the field of career development. And I also want to acknowledge that our committee includes several former and current international students in the field of counseling. So reminding the ACA advocacy skills, competencies, if you remember, advocacy is very important, not just on behalf of the clients, populations that we work with who might be marginalized, but also advocacy with them, in collaboration with them, above and beyond the individual and small group interventions. So our committee work, especially the professional development aspect of our committee work, is also another really good example to that, the collaboration or the collaborative nature of what advocacy could look like when we are advocating with and on behalf of populations like international students. So as a former international student myself, I really appreciate earlier my colleague Vanessa acknowledged that I spearheaded the committee, but I would like to add to that. Actually, back in 2012, Dr. Rich Feller was the president of NCDA, and at that particular conference, there was a significant increase in the number of sessions about international student career development issues. And after that conference, Dr. Rich Feller, in collaboration with Sean Utrecht and John Long from Colorado State University at the time, they had come together at the time and acknowledged that increase, the demand from professional, from counselors and career development professionals about the issues of international students, and they decided to put together a task force. It was supposed to be a one-year thing for professional development, just to support the career development practitioners, to give them some resources, to gather them together to develop some best practices. But within that first year, there was so much interest from so many different people that we were able to ask for an additional year, and then that's how we become a work group at the time. And we just kept growing because people kept asking more and more as we were meeting together. I also want to acknowledge that, like, all three of these individuals, Dr. Rich Feller, Sean Utrecht, John Long, but people, white Americans with the privileges, I think that was also a very important work, advocacy work on their behalf, that they invited people like me, other former international students, current international students, practitioners, and in a way they shared their power, their privilege to create, this task force, but then shift the leadership to people who are really passionate and who really feel a connection, but also looking to find a sense of belonging and community in the field of career development, career counseling. So I think it's very important to acknowledge again that history. And then we kept advocating for the group, and because how we were growing really fast, and we even started our work with the needs assessment, a survey with career development professionals across the United States. Several people participated, and then we did another survey with international students, and then we did a survey with employers who have considered or had experiences hiring international students. And as a result of these multi-year, multi-phase survey studies, we also acknowledge that career development practitioners were really needing more support because at their individual institutions, they were often the only person who were formally or informally assigned to be in charge of helping international students. At my former institution, like my first home, Penn State University Career Services, I had a wonderful education there in the counselor education department. I was also full-time career counselor in the second half of my doctoral studies. studies. And besides all of the wonderful support training I received, still I was the only person with the international background in my doctoral cohort and then later in the career services. So, and we did not have a formal position, somebody to work with international students, although we were at the top 10 schools with the highest numbers of international students. I was myself often feeling the responsibility to help other international students with their career development. And it felt really isolated, really lonely oftentimes. So that's why our committee has provided this aspect of professional development, which is very important also, like this sense of belonging and community, like for some additional, source of support for people who might be feeling, maybe again, not fully supported in the roles that they have at their institution. So we created this space for advocacy with resources, as I mentioned, the research, the needs assessment surveys, and then later social media projects, as my colleagues mentioned earlier. So this really helped us build a resilient chain with consistent membership. So again, Sean Lutek left, back in 2012, shortly after our task force was built, and he gave me the opportunity for the chairship. And until 2015, I was able to chair the committee. But I really want to acknowledge that several people, a very similar model, like the research team co-leads at the time, and then the resource team co-leads at the time, they have shown a very resilient, very active leadership, membership in the group, which really helped us build, our projects on each other and continue providing experiences for new skills and a growing network for our colleagues. So my colleagues already mentioned the mini conference being an example to that. So with the pandemic, for example, not everybody was able to afford the last NCDA conference. Again, I also want to acknowledge that even NCDA conferences, they are global. So we also have some international members sometimes who show interest, but with the pandemic, we all had multiple responsibilities. We are also immigrants, like supporting our families back home. So some of us could not afford the conference. So coming up with this mini conference was also, I think, a very important advocacy action on our part to continue that professional development. I also want to mention briefly with the next slide, the research team. So we don't have as much time left to talk about the research team, but if we can go to the next slide, please. The research team is a very important example too, because we believe that there is, not that we believe, literature shows that there are several citations about this. There is a gap in terms of, the practitioners and then the researchers, the scholarship. So oftentimes the articles, the publications, wonderful stuff is coming out of academia, people who may primarily hold academic positions. I'm not saying they don't also involve in practice, but it appears like there is some sort of a gap, a disconnect between the field, the practice, and then the scholarship, the research. So our group is also a really good example because, again, we include not only career development practitioners, but also counselor educators like myself, researchers, career counselors with PhDs who chose to stay in the career services field as career counselors, and also international students. So, as a result of all of the surveys we have done, there was one big result implication that career development practitioners need to integrate multicultural social justice counseling competencies and advocacy skills a lot more actively to their work. That was one implication from our research. That's why our most recent research took this implication and explored these competencies, what they look like right now in higher education career services. So then it became a mixed method participatory action research with a social justice design, which we are now writing about. So this table, we apologize, it's kind of really small, but we're happy to share later this table. This shows you here how we started with those survey studies I explained, and how we built on the implications from that survey to come to our research study currently about the competencies and what we learned from several different career development practitioners from both surveys and individual interviews, again, about their understanding, about their use of these competencies that we are now writing about. So this was not only research, because this was also a process for us to provide professional development to ourselves, educate ourselves about these competencies, and think together, learn together about integrating these competencies into our practice. So I just wanted to share this. And another outcome here that several of our members, I'm very proud to report, that also expressed interest themselves in doctoral studies, and now they are considering to conduct more research, make some career transitions. It was a very empowering experience for them to engage in research like this and professional development like this. It opened up horizons for them to also, make connections between their research interest and also career practice. So I just want to end here. So what's next for us? I'm turning to my colleagues again, I think, for questions maybe, or if you want to add anything that I might have missed.
I think the Q&A is waiting for us.
Okay.
All right. If you guys have any questions for our panelists today, you can type those into the chat section. And please make sure that you are selecting this in that chat to everyone so that we can see those questions and read them for you.
While you're typing questions on chat box, thank you, Melanie, posting the International Student Support Statement on chat box. So I'm so appreciating all the decisions that made by the NCDA board and supporting our ideas, the passion advocacy for international students who have been struggling multiple reasons, for the whole pandemic time. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think it's also important, Onyong, thank you for mentioning the statement. I skipped this in my section, that I think even coming together to write a statement like that was also part of professional development. In the earlier session, people were asking, what does it look like to take action, building on these ideas? So, our self-reflection about, systemic racism, or, how do we tackle anti-Black racism and other types of discrimination, oppression. And we should also remind international students usually perceived as a homogeneous group, but they are not. International students include, several different populations, including Black, Brown, other students of color. And when they hold certain national citizenships, when they have specific names, they might experience a lot more hostility, a lot more discrimination from both government, but also elsewhere in their communities. So I think the statement was also very timely in such critical times. And we have come together and also learned together. How do you write such a statement, and how do you advocate at the more community level?
I just saw a chat saying, as an international graduate student, how can I get involved?
So, yeah, thank you for asking that question, Si Chang. So, our committee is receiving new members once per year, which is typically the August and September. But, if we want to get involved or, to be informed about our resources or the projects, that we already created, definitely, please come to our LinkedIn group. So, Aram, can you put our LinkedIn groups, the URL on here, because my computer looks very weird this morning. So, we have already 500 people, who joined our LinkedIn group. So all the papers here, you can come to our LinkedIn group to see a lot of resources that you may be very excited to see. Yeah. So please join our LinkedIn group. Yeah. Thank you. Also, as Melanie said, one of our important teams of our committee is resources team. So resource team has published the resource guide for serving and working with international students. So that guide is more toward practitioners. So currently this resource guide is listed under the members only resources page. So yet someone posted here. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Alicia. Yep. Our committee is working on how you can get a better access to this resource guide, or how you can, as the already Aram mentioned, how you can digitize these resources this year. So that is another project on our resources team.
Just to remind everyone, also on the NCDA website under the webinars, you can see we already have 3 or 4 recorded webinars. And even if you're not a member, you can go click on the webinar name and listen to them freely. You only pay if you need CAU's continuing education credits. So you can see those webinars reflect all of the survey results, research that I mentioned earlier, our best practices. They also include information about actually the winners of International Student Services Awards. They also reflect some of the important best practices that some institutions are doing, again, to advocate on behalf or with international students about their career development. So you can also see other examples, like how we sometimes invite attorneys. They talk to our committee group, for example, about immigration policies. We recently did one a couple months ago, which was also an important professional development piece. We don't have expertise about all these things. We can't be. So an important part of advocacy work is collaboration, interdisciplinary work. So we also from time to time invite such attorneys and get educated by them, so you can see some of our learnings in those webinars.
Thank you, Arif. We already covered our YouTube channel, but it's not yet open. So probably at some point in spring, we can make an announcement about our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. Please subscribe to our channel. Also, our community definitely will contribute to NCDA master YouTube channel that will be coming soon, I believe. Yeah. So let's use YouTube for, but definitely, you know, we already have some videotaped some of our presentations. Also, we may be more creative, creating new the videos, engaging or educating peers, peer practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Harley. Yeah, definitely. You cannot miss it. Thank you, Dirk.
I don't think we have any more questions. Melanie, real quick right here, said she also suggests searching the NCDA web magazine, Career Convergence, on the words international students. There are several articles in Career Convergence on working with international students, so that's a great recommendation. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you to Unyang, Vanessa, Aram, and Elif. We're going to head into another break, and we're running a little ahead of schedule, so we're going to take a 15-minute break this time. We will be back at 1:15 Eastern Time for our strategic plan presentation with our NCDA board members. Thank you.